Hello, everyone, and welcome to Walking Through the Bible. Jehovah is the King of heaven and earth. This fact isn't believed by many people today, be they atheists, Muslims, Hindus, or people who follow any of the other hosts of religions found in this earth. But it is something that the Bible confirms, and if this claim is true, would make these other religions false. But simply stating that it is true doesn't make it true. Christians have faith that it is true, but why? That's what I'd like us to consider when studying today's psalm. So if you have a Bible with you, turn to the book of Psalms, to Psalm 47. We're going to be reading from verses 1 through 9. If you don't have a Bible, don't worry, just follow along with us on the screen. The version that we'll be reading from is the New King James Version. So, Psalm 47, beginning at verse 1. To the chief musician, a psalm of the sons of Korah. Oh, clap your hands, all you peoples. Shout to God with the voice of triumph. For the Lord Most High is awesome. He is great. He is a great king over all the earth. He will subdue the peoples under us and the nations under our feet. He will choose our inheritance for us, the excellence of Jacob, whom he loves. God has gone up with a shout, the Lord with the sound of a trumpet. Sing praises to God. Sing praises. Sing praises to our King. Sing praises. For God is the King of all the earth. Sing praises with understanding. God reigns over the nations. God sits on his holy throne. The princes of the people have gathered together, the people of the God of Abraham. For the shields of the earth belong to God. He is greatly exalted. The psalm says that it was written to the chief musician, meaning it was meant for temple worship, and written by the sons of Korah, Levites involved in the temple and its worship. We don't know exactly when this psalm was written, but it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility for it to have been written during David's life and in response to all of the things that the Lord has done for David and for Israel. The psalm itself is a song of praise to God as the King of the whole earth. It has been called one of the accession psalms because it depicts God as assuming his kingdom and taking his seat upon his throne. It's not that God hasn't always been king over heaven and earth, or somehow left his throne, but through his actions for Israel, God is seen as being present on his throne, able to affect events here on this earth, and for this reason is worthy to be praised and exalted. How does God act in this psalm? He subdues the peoples and nations under his feet, meaning he is able to make nations rise up and nations fall. And as we've seen in other studies, this does not mean that he controls us like puppets on a string, but rather works through our free will, but accomplishes his purpose anyway. I've compared this to a grandmaster in chess, God playing a beginner in chess, man. The grandmaster has studied chess, not only the types of moves that can be made, but the ways and methods the game can be played. He has studied thousands upon thousands of games and knows how to defeat any type of opening. In short, a grandmaster will not lose to a beginner of chess, not because he controls the beginner's moves, but because he can anticipate and counter the free will moves of the beginner. He can even manipulate the beginner to make the moves he wants them to make, even without removing their free will. That is God's relationship with man when God wants to accomplish something. If he wants to raise up a nation like Israel and give them an inheritance, he can do that. And if he wants to humble a nation, maybe like Babylon, he can do that. God is that powerful. And when he is finished acting, the psalmist says that he goes up with a shout like the voice of a trumpet returning to heaven, as it were. Again, this is poetic language, for the psalmist sees God coming down from heaven to give aid and returning to heaven when he has done what is finished. God doesn't need to leave heaven to do any of these things, but from our vantage point, we can understand why we often view it this way. And because God was victorious, his people should sing praises to God, praises with understanding to the God of the whole heaven and whole earth, for in the end, God rules over it with all the weapons of war belonging to him. And it's that last point that I want us to look at for a few moments before closing, that Jehovah is the God of heaven and earth. At the time this psalm was written, and even today, this was not a prevailing view. Jehovah was Israel's God, But Baal and Ashtaroth, or Dagon, or the host of the other gods that man has created were the gods of these other nations. And when other nations won, it's because those gods defeated Jehovah. And when Israel won, it's because Jehovah beat those other gods. This psalm turns that notion on its head. Sure, Jehovah is said to be the God of Abraham and the God of Israel, but he is also the God of the Philistines, the God of the Moabites, and the God of the Edomites. Now, they didn't worship him as God. They served idols, which is why Jehovah was against them. But this fact alone didn't mean that Jehovah wasn't supposed to be their God. God does not play favorites. Anyone who worships him and obeys him in faith is accepted by him. Remember people like Rahab, Ruth, and Naaman, all people who were not born Israelites, yet all people of faith who came to knowledge of Jehovah and obeyed him in faith. And so bringing it forward to today, Christians go out into the world and preach Jesus. We preach faithful obedience to and trust in Jehovah, the same Jehovah of Psalm 47. This is in contrast to the Muslims teaching obedience to their God, Allah. Hindus teaching obedience to their gods like Krishna and Vishnu, and other religions teaching obedience to their gods. Why is Jehovah the true God and not these other gods? Because Jehovah is not a regional or a national God. He is the God of all heaven and earth. Because Jehovah acts in this world and can bring all things to be in subjection to him. Because Jehovah's will is never defeated. Because Jehovah's actions are right and just. And because Jehovah loved us so much that he volunteered to dig us out of the hole of sin instead of destroying us. All of those other religions minimize sin or don't solve the sin problem. These gods overlook sin and act unjustly by doing so. Jehovah, through the death of Jesus, paid the price for sin, the just dying for the unjust, so that the price for sin could be paid and God could be just in forgiving mankind of sins when man in faith obeyed him. And for that reason, people should praise Jehovah each and every day for the great love in which he has loved us and to the extent that he went to save our souls. With that, our time is up for today. The Lord willing, we hope you'll join us for tomorrow's discussion of Psalm 48, verses 1 to 14, as we continue our walk through the Bible, one verse at a time.
We thank you for watching Walking Through the Bible today. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave them below. But if you like this video, we ask that you consider subscribing to our channel so you won't miss out on other videos in our series, as well as share this video among your friends so that the saving message of Jesus Christ can go out to the whole world.